back, and I was looking for something to talk about today, and I saw an idea, so I took it. So let's talk about how much it actually cost to make all these movies. Now I haven't done the total, and maybe I'll put a thing in the uh, top messages to put a total on here, how much it actually cost to make Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Palpatine, plus Rogue One and Solo. But I did do how much it actually cost, how much money they actually made without taking away what they lost in some of the movies. I actually put that together. So The Force Awakens had a budget. Hey, Dave, I'm doing good. Had a budget, a gross budget is what they'll call it, of 638.9 million. They got $100 million tax incentive from the British government, and the net budget ended up 53 being 533 million.2. All right. Domestic box office was a staggering 936 million, almost $937 million. Hi, Kyle. International was over $1 billion. Okay, so the total box office was 2,056,000, and it just, yeah. I mean, yeah. So the final profit that Disney made was $500.2 million. Again, I did not at all. I added what they had together up. I did not do this is what Solo lost, this is what Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny lost. But watch. Total budget for the TLJ, $414.6 million. After an incentive of $71 million, 343 million.2 back. And it made 1.3 billion at the box office. That's a 35% decline. All right. And I did not put, did I put how much? Let me find this. I'll tell, let me, if I have it. I know I do. So TLJ made for Disney about $324 million. And okay, again, that's a 35% decline. All right. But Solo, which cost $364.5 million, there are questions about if that's a real number or not. This is a gross budget. They had 65 million.7 incentive from the British government, and it got down to $298 million net budget. They had a net loss of $76.9 million. And Rogue One, 325 gross budget, 298.7, 258.4 profit. And really, they didn't do I didn't do say percentage. So what you're looking at, when we get to The Rise of Palpatine, now this is another huge budget. 593.7 gross budget, 103 million tax incentive. Net budget is $489 million. Net profit almost is unbelievable. 48 million point three. And the box office was 1.077. Dial of Destiny cost $384 million to make. And that's what they're reporting, but who knows? $192 million in incentives. Net budget was $353.3 million. They lost $160.3 million. That's what we're told. Let's go over here. So they made altogether, this is before I took the loss from Solo and the loss from Dial of Destiny, $1,210.7. They invested $1 billion in Disneyland, $1 billion in Disney World. I know for a fact that they had to actually add more money to the Disneyland thing because the contractors screwed some stuff up and did not follow the codes that, wackadoo California has up there. So I think it actually did cost another $1 billion. Okay. Galactic Star Cruiser. We know this is what was reported, $750 million to make. The rumor is it actually cost $1 billion. They closed it. The fact that Rise of the Resistance, each ride cost about $400 million to make. It's $800 million. Merchandise projected every year was supposed to be about $500 billion. But consumer sales after the Rise of Palpatine came out went down considerably. They make, I think, they said about $1 billion a year. And that's mostly on Grogu and stuff. So when you hear, people like, WWD Pro, WDW Pro, Valiant Renegade, the insurance salesman, and others talking about the movie didn't make any money, it's going to probably make it back in digital sales because it's coming out soon in digital, and it'll probably make it back, make everything that they spent on it back in merchandise. You kind of want the movie to really hit hard, and there you go. But what does it say when you've got a movie like The Force Awakens, which we all know sucked ass, makes a profit for Disney of $500.2 million, but the next one, the profit is 35% decline, 343 million point two. Go over here to the rise of Skywalker, or the rise of Palpatine, and they only made about $48 million on it. Now, to me, it's not. It's simple economics. People were pissed off at what they saw on the screen in The Last Jedi. We expected them to fix what they broke, because JJ actually really did break Star Wars in The Force Awakens. The misuse of Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and instead of going, okay, we fucked up, you get this round-headed director who's never directed a movie like this, of this scale, to direct a movie, and instead of writing a movie, he wrote a propaganda piece, which is what it was, which is why people got mad, right? Which is why we got pissed off. And the thing about it is Disney was shocked at the reaction the fans had to The Last Jedi. And I know they were upset when they saw the fact that they were going to get a minuscule amount of money for what they paid to make The Rise of Palpatine, $489 million, and they got a net profit of $48.3 million. which to me looks like a loss. I mean, if you're going to spend that much money and you get that back, I mean, that's 10% ROI, return on investment. And it's like, you know, and again, why is this happening? Because the movies did not do what they were supposed to do. They did not tell a story. They were carelessly and sloppily put together. Um, you know, the fact that Disney does not want to confront that idea, and now we've got the Odyssey, which, by the way, made less money this weekend than Superman did from last year, and I think it made less money than Wolverine in its opening weekend. And there was another one, I can't remember what it was, but when you hear, lefties in Hollywood gloating that get woke, don't broke is go broke isn't real. Look at compare what that movie made this weekend to what those other movies made. Okay, there's the problem. There's the issue. Um, I don't care if you've got a diverse crew. I care if you're gonna, deliberately, you know, uncomfortably shove a, a black woman in a white woman's spot, a transgender man, aka a woman who mutilated herself in the spot that Henry Cavill should be in. You know, um, we'll see the where the Odyssey ends up. We'll see how far down the downward trend is this next weekend. Um, it is really amazing to me that the truth that the Hollywood trades won't tell the truth. They won't tell the truth, but they never do. I mean, we all know that. It amazes me that we can't have an honest conversation with these people. You know, when you've got movies like The Dial of Destiny, which should have been huge, losing $160 million, and Solo losing, 76.9 million. That's what they admit to. Um, this is kind of a big deal. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where a lot of conservatives, where they really don't understand uh, any of this. Um, if you're somebody who hasn't been to a movie in 25 years, shut up. You're not. Your opinion doesn't mean anything to any of us. Okay, it really doesn't. All right. Um, it's really fascinating to me that the reality is not being spoken about in Hollywood. I mean, somebody at what's Warner Brothers who put this travesty Odyssey out should be saying, what's going on here is this movie did not make the money that Superman last year did, right? It did not make the money Logan did, or Wolverine. Uh, so, what's going on here? What's going on here is that it's gaslighting. It's really just that simple. It's gaslighting. And when you look at the numbers, really all you got to do if you want to see the reality in your face, ask Grok. Universal did. Okay, thanks, Dave. Okay, Universal did. They're not going to let us know what's really going on. I mean, the Odyssey is not going to be the hit they want it to be. It never will be. They can pretend it is, but it's gaslighting, like I said. And Disney still gaslights about Solo, even though Kennedy herself said casting Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo was a mistake. It's like, really, you're finally understanding why the fans went, and screamed when we saw him. It's that simple. I mean, it really is. It's really this simple of a thing going on here. So what I wanted to do, and I know this stuff has been talked about to death, but when you buy, yeah, I come up with a new one though. He's a lawn jockey. He looks like a lawn jockey to me. Um, but when Disney buys Lucasfilm, they, all right, I had Grok pull up all the numbers, how much Disneyland and Disney World uh, cost and everything. They have not really seen a profit. Again, I said that Grogu sells, and eventually Mando and Grogu will turn a profit. But what's killing them, the numbers say it. I mean, I'm looking at it, wrote everything down. What's killing them is them pretending the sequels don't exist. And the reason why people aren't going to the movies is because of the sequels, right? They don't, and the woke shit, all right? I mean, they can sit there and do a dance around the Odyssey, but it's not going to sell, put butts in seats. Again, don't go to Rotten Tomatoes because they mess with the audience score. I went to Media Critic, and the score for the Odyssey that I gave it was about 3, and the score, the aggregate score of the audience was about 5. That's not good. That's not good at all. I mean, it really isn't. I mean, so we'll see where it ends up, but I predict like a 60 to 70% drop in box office between this week and next weekend, and then we'll see where we are. But you look at the numbers. If Disney did not invest in the parks, they still wouldn't have come even, broken even, if there wasn't any merchandise being sold. They projected, oh yeah, I mean that actually, that would probably be kind of fun to look at. One of the things that really bothers me, Breitbart and Daily Caller, Daily Wire, they don't have anybody that can actually talk about pop culture in an intelligent way. I did some things for Breitbart, and John Nolte is the head of Big Hollywood there, and he's not the guy because he's too angry, right? You got to have someone who can just look at the numbers and say, "This is it. This is what's going on." Now, when you look at these numbers, you want to just talk to Josh tomorrow and Alan Bergman and Dana Walden and go, the reason why this is all happening is because you guys decided to not mention The Force Awakens and the rest of the sequel trilogy. You guys want to pretend it never happened. And, it's this whole bullshit of, if we stop talking about it, it'll just die. No, it won't. It won't. Why? Because Nerdrotic, Echo Base, Midnight's Edge will not stop. Will not, right? And you've got other people who have gaslighted themselves into thinking that Disney Star Wars, these movies, made a lot of money, and they didn't. I mean, again, The Rise of Palpatine, they only made $48 million. I mean, and I'll tell you something. 343 million and a 35% decline in final profit between TFA and TLJ is really bad. I mean, that's like, what are we doing wrong? And they should have had Kathy answer that question. I would have had her answer that question. The only reason why they didn't is because remember, her contract said she puts a movie out that makes 1 billion, and her contract is being reviewed this year. She gets to stay. Contract automatically gets renewed, which is a bullshit thing, and I think it really hurt um, the franchise. I mean, it started out with a bang, but when you got people walking out of the theater going, "What the fuck did I just see?" Not happy. There was no joy at the end of it. There was no, "Wow, that was great." There was more like, "What?" And people wanted to see a Star Wars movie. That's why they went to it. They wanted to see the gang, and what they got was absolute ass pain. And by the time like a year before TLJ came out, we were all hoping against hope that Ryan Johnson would do something to fix what J.J. Abrams broke. And instead of fixing it, he made it worse, like beyond worse, intentionally. And when I look at the numbers, it's like this is what happens when you have people who don't understand how to keep a budget. They have an agenda that's not the movie's agenda, and they don't give two shits about coming in under budget and actually making money for the studio. I remember when 1941 came out and Steven Spielberg, I mean, that movie, that he was way over budget. He was horrified. He thought he'd never make another movie. Um, and then George said, "Why don't you make Raiders of the Lost Ark with me? You can be the director." And that's how that was fixed. But J.J. Abrams is not George Lucas, and he's definitely not Steven Spielberg. Ryan Johnson couldn't carry Spielberg's baseball cap. And, and there's the problem. Well, the thing about 1941, it was written by, John Milius, who is John Milius, you know, and, Solo was written by a Nepo baby named Jonathan Kasdan, and his daddy, you know, um, and then Dial of Destiny was just an absolute atrocity because Kennedy would not stay out of it. She would not. I mean, this is what I think happened, and I've said this before. Remember when Spielberg left? It was like that February when they were getting ready to winding up to start principal photography. Spielberg suddenly just leaves. Why? And I'm going to go to my grave with this. The reason why is because Phoebe Waller-Bridge was going to be in it, and Kennedy was insisting that she take over the fedora, and Spielberg was like, no. And I really think Kathleen Kennedy, she probably had a long talk with the guys after the movie came out, and hopefully they dragged her, because the only way you get someone like that to admit they made a mistake is by getting in their faces and saying, "This is what you did." And she had no intention of honoring the legacy. She had no intention at all. She wanted to emasculate Indiana Jones like she did Han Solo, and give the whip and the fedora to a British stick figure with no soul. And that's what, and it failed. It absolutely failed. They had to reshoot the end. Why? Because they put it in front of test audiences who went. I mean, and it was still a fairly bad movie. So, what I'm talking about is when you look at the people who made the original trilogy, Star Wars itself was way over budget, and George was scrambling to do the cantina scene, and they just took Halloween costumes out of props the prop departments at the studio, and that was the cantina. Um, they they were well over budget, but look how much money it made. Why? It starts with a good story, and then it goes into great characters. TFA had none of that, and I'm always shocked that Mark and Harrison and Carrie didn't say anything, and maybe they did. Remember, R.W. Rinsler was going to tell people what happened behind the scenes at at TFA, and Disney held him to an NDA, and he couldn't. All right, so I mean, look at it. Let's go back to this number: 593.7 gross budget. The movie shouldn't have cost 200 million to make. With 103 million dollars in incentives, the net was 400 million 89 $489 million. There you go. There you go. I mean, you know, that tells me right there. Or no, that was The Rise of Palpatine. This is TFA. 630 $8.9 million. 100 million tax incentive, 533.2 million. That tells me right there there's problems. That tells me right there were reshoots, all kinds of things, and that's not because Harrison Ford got his foot broken. More garbage was going on that we weren't ever allowed to know. And J.J. Abrams cannot control a budget, and Kennedy was not going to either. So there you go. The guys that made Raiders of the Lost Ark on time, on budget, made make buku bucks, right? There's a difference, and it really, I mean, when you look at these numbers, $638 million to make a movie. You could make 3 movies for that, to be honest, right? Anyway, I want to put this out there, guys, because I thought it would be fun to go over these numbers again. But I looked at, I'm going to tell you, go to Grok and ask him to go through the numbers with you, and you will be shocked. All right. So when people say, "Oh, it made this much money," bring up 638.9 million gross budget, and then Britain saved them $100 million. Woo woo. $533 million is you can make 2 really good movies of the Big Ten type for that money, and probably make a lot more money than they did. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about this, and because Rogue or Ahsoka season 2's been moved to early next year, and they we know that they had to go outside of Disney to get a budget put together for Starfighter, and then they had to go asking for money again to finish it. So what's going on here? I don't know, but you've got executives at Disney talking about getting rid of the sequels, and that's what's holding it back. Is the sequel trilogy? That's what's holding everything back. And if they want to bring the franchise back to its glory years, I'm telling you right now, they have to get rid of it. Anyway, I am done talking. I gotta make dinner now. This is Steph signing out. See you around the galaxy.